Lou Horvitz at Gold Derby. This, I feel like, is a religious moment for us. We're talking with the ultimate awards man himself here, the fellow who has. Let me run through your bio here. I mean, you've directed the Oscars, the Grammys, the Emmys, the American Music Awards, the People's Choice, the Daytime Emmys, the MTV Awards, Kids' Choice Awards, on and on and on and on and on. Wow. Before we're going to talk about American Idol in a minute, but before we do, indulge me on this question for award shows. What is is there a secret sauce?
I think, Tom, the success of directing a successful award show, or the key to it, is something that I really value my work on, and that is to take the various categories in the awards, see who the nominees are, and find out what personal relationships they may have in the room when they get nominated and should they win. So if Martin Scorsese did a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis and he comes up, then it's not only Martin Scorsese's significant other that I would cut to for applaud or listening. I would include, Daniel Day-Lewis. I would include Leonardo DiCaprio in another category. So it's kind of the story and interconnection of who is in that room attending that particular night when an individual wins their award. I try to show as many connected individuals as I can to the winner.
Oh, that's great. Let's talk about American Idol. That has got to be a real challenge to do that show because, just last night's show, for example, the pulsing lights, the energy of the crowd. You can't manage that in most cases. That's a wild card. That's sometimes out of control. There are interactive elements. Gina Irene a few weeks ago had the glow sticks going. There's the live music component. There's all of that. Now, this is new for you to do American Idol, but it's not new because you're a master at award shows that are considered like live variety music acts. Let me ask the general question first. What was it like to take on this challenge?
Well, Tom, the challenge of American Idol was very unique for me. In my early years, I started out as a rock and roll director for Don Kirshner's rock concert. I went to In Concert, and I did mostly music shows because I had bands and I played, and I decided I would photograph the music rather than continue in front of the camera. So then fast forward to all the shows that I ended up doing as a live television director were award shows like the Grammys, like the Billboard Awards that had music acts in it. Now, when it came time and they were asking me if I would be interested in doing American Idol, I knew that this was kind of like the hybrid variety show in a lot of ways, where there was a big emphasis on the contestants performing music, and then there was the game of the judges judging the individual's performance, and then there was the game of having to, again, tell a story which is between the performer, the judge, the family, the other contestants watching somebody perform. So American Idol had that, all the parts of something that I'd done many, many times in other forms, but never together. So I told Trish Kinane and David Hill at Fox and Jesse Ignatovich and Evan Prager and Per Blankens, who are my executive producers, that my interest in doing the show had largely to do about the success that they'd achieved in being in the #1 slot for 10 years, and the fact that it would be nice for me to have solid gold in the 80s and then be able to do a season or two, whatever it ends up being, of American Idol. And but that I also knew that it was a different format for me, so that it would be a little bit of a learning curve on how they played the game, starting out with thousands and thousands of contestants, and then finally getting it down to Hollywood Week at maybe 3,000, and then round of 15 girls, round of 15 boys, and then 13, and paring it down, and now we have 4. And it's taken me most of the season to really, get the kind of groove that I want with it. But at the same token, I believe that they hired me for my, experience and skills, but also they knew that I had a reputation of coming in to shows that had run a really long time in the #1 slot, maybe getting 2 or 3 more years on the air by retooling a predominantly set cinematic approach to it. And so that was why I hooked up with them, and they hooked up with me, and it's been really a fantastic ride.
how live is the live show really? I mean, does it? I've never actually attended the show. Is it like done an hour earlier and then you do get some edit time, or is there only like an 8-second delay? How close to airtime are you actually airing the live show?
I believe that Fox airs it with a 5-second delay, which they stated last night, and it is completely live. You tape it from 5 to 7 on Wednesday. That's the performance. And now we go 6 to 6:30 on Thursday, the results of that previous night's, and we reveal the vote and who's going to stay and who's going to go. So it's live. There's no time to make any repairs. I mean, if there was an audio problem or something that could be repaired, you have to realize that even though it's airing at 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern time, you have really a short period of time to fix it for the West Coast feed. So what you see is what you get.
But when you do the Oscars, if there's if the show runs late, the affiliates may grumble, but you have the option of keep going. So with Idol you don't. So in other words, when J-Lo, as she often does, when she's done giving her critique, then she'll go, oh, and then another thought. I can imagine you cringing up there in the control room going, no. So how do you contain those elements when the judges just decide to wax poetic and go on, and it's cutting into your performance times?
Well, the performance has to be equal for each of the performers that perform, so we never change that time. What does change is the amount of time that the judges are allowed to do with their judging as the show goes on. I don't really, I watch the timing clock because we have to be off the air on time on these shows, and Per Blanken sits on headset with our back timer and Jesse and Evan, and they're seeing how it goes, and they're pretty much telling me we won't do a rejoin here, or they're managing the time. When I do the Emmys with Don Misher, he manages the time unbelievably because he has a system that he worked up and he and I have used for years. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be going over. You can be within seconds. I think it's more germane on when I'm doing, say, the Grammys or the Oscars, where you don't want a 4.5-hour show. You want a 3.5-hour show, and so at a certain point, the producer has to, like the playoff music comes in. Here, we don't want to stomp on the judging because that's what the people are waiting to see and hear how the judges, these extremely talented Harry, Jennifer, and Keith, how they feel about that particular performance of that particular individual who they'd like to see move up the road. Knowing full well that they have no say-so in the vote, they do give incredible information, so we try not to cut them. But, yeah, when they start to go over, I know that we're going to have to cut something else. And when you get down into the last acts, it's 10 acts for an hour show, a 2-hour show, excuse me. When you get into Act 7, 8, and going into 9, your time is you got to get on time.
What have you done new, or what did you bring to the show this year? When you what are we seeing new on the show or different than before you were there?
That's a good question, Tom, and here's what I had proposed to the Fremantle people and everybody that I met with that I've listed. And Charles Boyd was in that meeting too. He's been there from the beginning. And Megan Wolflick, she's also from the beginning. What I suggested to them is, one, I was flattered to be coming on to do American Idol because it held the spot for 10 years as the #1 show. That's very difficult to do in any form of television. And that what I could do was not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the game worked incredibly. The judges were going to be great this year. The talent is a talent search, and you don't know what that's all about until you get them there and you manage them up. But what I did do is, in my head, I had conceived of 2 stages versus 1 proscenium stage, so that I could shoot in one direction and then have the judges rotate. I built a rotating desk so that we could be on the B stage, which is a smaller stage, and you could tie the 2 together. I wanted to give a 360 environment, and that's the first part. So I met with Jesse and Evan and Baz Halpin, and on my chicken scrawls, which I always kind of sketch out what I want, passerelles, connectivity from stage to stage. We did get that stage, and that's a big part of the look. Then Al Gurdon came aboard, the lighting designer from England, very tasty lighting designer. We had a new lighting look that heretofore hadn't worked, but a couple of things with it. I changed the way it was photographed. They had, I think in the past, maybe 13 or 14 cameras, but they were really set up to do proscenium, and week after week you start to get kind of a sameness to it, and that repetition can wear subliminally down on the person who's watching the show. So visually you try to change it. I really utilized the 16:9 format with offset close-ups and offset framings, and framings that I would do more if I was doing a motion picture, utilizing that frame, because almost every person is watching television in that 16:9 compositional frame. But a lot of directors don't utilize it. Like, for example, you're in the center of the screen now, and I'm in the center of the screen on a small box, but I would put you over here on the left, or I'd put you low in the frame. All those little things I threw into it. I changed, I added 2 wireless steady cams, I added 2 techno jibs, I added 2 pedestal cameras that lived in the mosh pit with the kids. But why pedestals? Because they can carry long lenses. So from all the way by Ricky Minor and the band, I can zoom to a close-up of Ryan at the B stage. So all of that put together, set, different kind of camera configuration, different kind of composition. That's what I brought to the show, and so far I've really liked what we set out to do, and I believe it shows.
Okay, I have one complaint. Will you suffer my one complaint here?
Yes.
It's about sound on the show, and that is, it's maybe in 1 out of 3 or 4 music acts, I think the band is too loud. I think on the songs where the contestant is going for some kind of vocal nuance, I think sometimes the band still overpowers them. That's just me. I'm just putting it out there. But on the rock songs, yeah, like when Caleb is screaming into a song, or Gina's going at it, it adds an energy and a pulse. But sometimes, of course, you have a sense that the contestant has his handle on it, like when Sam Wolf would sing one of those quiet little songs on his guitar. But other times, I do have an issue with that. Anyway.
Well, I think it's a valid issue, simply because television sound is really particular versus, let's say, a motion picture where they use THX or they use Dolby, and that soundtrack is attached to the film print or the digital print, and you put it up and you roll it. In television, you have a multitude of places where that overpowering bands of vocal can come into play, starting with 1, the way you mix it live, number 2, the way it's sent from CBS Studios to a Fox NOC, Network Operations Center, and then they send it to the carrier, so you get into Comcast, DirecTV, Dish, Time Warner, and every one of those servers, they change the sound again, and by the time it gets to you, I think what happens to a lot of people is that the vocal mic gets buried in the band seems to be overpowering, so what you do is you turn up your set to try to hear the voice of what in fact the vocal, and what in fact you're turning up is the whole band. So you're not the first one who has addressed sound on this show or other music shows that I've done, i.e. Grammys, Billboards, music performances on Oscars, the Kennedy Center honors. It's a fine line on how you really make that mix kind of the 5.1 kind of so excellent all along the way, and you hope that you've monitored the broadcaster and the carrier, and we do in fact have people that do nothing but listen to the different feeds. So you can go into a room and take a recording off of the 4 carriers, you can take the networks feed, and you can take the mix, and you can put them all side by side and play them and sample them, and no 2 of them will be the same. And that's just the nature of going out over the satellite and the internet lines.
Let's talk about all these Emmys you've got behind you there. You have won, 6 or more Emmys for actually directing the Oscars, and that's hilarious because one of those, tell the story, you were actually in the booth directing the Emmys telecast when you won the Emmy for directing the Oscars, and they had to come to you in the booth. I remember that moment. It was hilarious. It was great.
Well, thank you. I actually have 7, 6 of which I accepted from the booth on the Emmys. Because it was impossible in our venue for me to leave the booth, run up the stairs, hope to win, walk out, give a speech, go back down. We'd be 2 acts into it. So I always had to bring the camera into the truck should I win, and then I would also be the nomination shot in the 5-way box. And so it was a very out-of-body experience, and it was a very almost juvenile feeling, because I go, okay, the nominees are, you take it, and they go, Louis J. Horvitz for the 74th Oscars, and then I go boxes, and I'm in a box with all my other peers that are nominated, and then the person on stage, Ricky Gervais or one of them, opens the envelope, and they go, and the Emmy goes to Louis J. Horvitz, and I'm going, oh, blow myself up. Then I blow the box up, and then I look at the camera, I'm going, well, hi out there. I'm in the truck, that's where I am, and you're out there. Take 7, see the white shot. Come back to me. I know I'm going to get played off now because I see the time clock. It's going in front of me, so I'm not exempt from this. Thank the Academy. Thank Gil Cates. God bless him. He was my producer for the most part. And let's take camera 10. Hello to Louis and Claire Horvitz of Van Nuys, California, my mom and dad. And then I'd get back to myself, and I go, all right, play me off. And then we'd be on our way. So it was like being in 7th grade in junior high school and hearing over the essay. And the new boys' vice president is Louis Horvitz. It's that juvenile, and it feels that, that much fun.
What are some of the real magic moments when things really went right when you directed an award show? Things like just magic time that you couldn't have planned. It just worked out so well.
Well, I think that about 3 weeks ago, one of my sequences that when I was directing the Oscars was photographed in the booth by Ronit Reitman, Gil Cates' stepdaughter, and it was an Israeli documentary, so the Academy doesn't allow you to make documentaries for the United States, but they do for other countries. So she was making it for Israel, and in that one sequence that was particularly unusual, as you're asking, it was the time that Cuba Gooding Jr. won for Jerry Maguire. And Gil Cates was behind me, and this was my first Oscars, and he was saying to me, remember when I tell you, you got to use that playoff music because we got to keep the show on time as best we can. I said, I got you. And he goes, as soon as they say thank you, then you just play them off. And I go, I understand, Gil. So the winner is Jerry Maguire. He comes to the stage. He goes, oh, I can't believe this. What a great movie. Da-da-da-da-da. He goes, thank you. And so I go, music. And the music comes in, and Cuba goes, no, I'm not done. And then the music's still playing, and I'm building it, and then I'm realizing he's not getting off that stage. Keep it going. Keep building the music and see what he does. And so he was giving a speech. Suddenly you see Tom Cruise is standing up and giving him, a kudos, and then Steve Martin, and then Tom Hanks. Then the audience is on his feet, and he finally finishes it, and he's jumping on the stage, and he goes, now thank you, and then we go to commercial, and we all just jumped up and hooted in the truck because it was a really unplanned moment, but definitely I played off of what could have been a negative situation. I didn't shut the music off and let him continue to talk. And when you see the scene that he probably won for Jerry Maguire, it's the scene where he catches a ball in the end zone to win the game, and they knock him out, and he's laying flat on his back and not moving, and it's dead still in the stadium, and the announcers are going, well, we don't know if he'll get up, and that was a pretty hard hit, let's look at it again. And then all of a sudden he starts to rise, and as he rises up, he gets all this applause from the fans, and he starts dancing in the end zone. That was a parallel to actually what happened when he won that Emmy.
Right, wow. Okay, and then what was the worst disaster that ever befell you where you just said, we're not going to get through this, we've hit the iceberg?
Knock on wood, I haven't had too many of those that really come to mind. I would say we did a show that Roy Christopher designed. Excuse me. We did a show that Roy Christopher designed, and in the show, as you come out to the proscenium, there was a globe, like the universal globe that you see in the early logo of the studios, and it had a ring around it, and it rotated, and it said, you know, Academy Awards on it, and it was all sculpted. It was a huge piece. It was probably like a 30-foot orb, you know, in circumference, and the set was really revolved around that because other units rotated too. So everything was working great. We were basing all of the shots coming off that globe and in almost every act. And then when we broke for dinner and we came back, I got the word that the globe would not rotate. And I went, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Everything's evolving around seeing this orb turn and rotate for every move. And he goes, you're going to have to work around it. I said, I did roll off on this, right, guys, on commercial or in rehearsal? Yeah, I said, we're going to use it for bumpers, so we'll show the people that it rotates. But we literally had to take it in the position that it had settled in. And fortunately, it had settled on Academy Awards, so you didn't know that there was anything wrong with it. But it did teach me a lesson, and that was don't trust stuff that rotates, one, on the deck or up above, and two, if you're going to stop that, make sure you stop it on a side that reads like you may have to live with it not rotating. And all of my friends who tell me they're going to do rotating devices, my producer friends, I'm going, just make sure you have a manual way to rotate it. And then what did I go and do? I went and put a rotating stage for the judges in this show. And then I went to 360 shooting. I'm going, I have created a nightmare for myself as a director in an effort to bring a different look to your show on American Idol. So that was a disastrous moment that we turned around.
Well, here's hoping you have another Emmy over your shoulder soon for directing the show. It'd be nice. You've won for the Kennedy Center Honors, right? You've won for the Oscars. It'd be nice to have you to win for a live music show like Idol. Thank you very much, Lou.
Okay, Tom, thank you, and thanks for hooking up with me.
We appreciate it. Good
Talk
luck.
to you later.